Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/historyfangirl. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Kindle, Android, or MP3 player.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Craig. Welcome to the History Fangirl podcast. This is episode 27, a very special Q&A. The podcast turned 6 months old, and I would love to say that this Q&A special episode was to celebrate that, but it's actually because my internet is so terrible at my hotel right now that I was not able to finish the recording for this week. The episode was going really well, and the information was so good, and we just could not hear each other, and I did not want to upload a interview where you guys could barely hear the answers to the questions. So I figured we would hit the pause button and record that next week when I'm back in Sofia with amazing Wi-Fi. Guys, Bulgaria has like some of the best Wi-Fi in the world, like way better than parts of the United States. So next week I'll get that recorded and we'll get back to our regularly scheduled historic place interviews for next week. But this week I figured I would take a moment. I've been doing a lot of Facebook Live recordings from the road, and I figured I would do a Q&A episode where people could ask me anything they wanted. So they could ask me about travel, my personal life, my divorce. They could ask me about my boyfriend. They could ask me about money. Like, they could just ask me whatever they wanted. And because I knew that the interview episode had already had to be scrapped, I decided to record it and share it with you guys too. So hopefully you guys find it interesting. It's got lots of travel tips and lots of background information about me. And if you don't find me interesting at all and you just want the historic interviews, they will be back next week. But thank you guys so much for your patience, and I hope you enjoy this little peek behind the curtain of my life. Today I wanted to go live. It's my last day in Southeast Asia, so I've been in Southeast Asia for a month. I've been a little bit quiet this week because I haven't had great data in Malaysia, so I haven't really been able to go live from Malaysia easily. But I did want to go live tonight on my last night just to answer any questions you guys have. And it doesn't have to be about Southeast Asia. To kick us off, I have a couple of questions that people have left recently on my blog or messaged me privately or emailed me that I figured we could get started with. So recently I got a comment from Jen. So Jen asks, I'm looking forward to the end of May so I can do some summer travel. Not sure where I want to go yet, but I want to avoid crowds. And then she mentions that Tulum is a great off-season destination. And do I know of any really good off-season destinations? And I would assume that you're looking, Jen, specifically for off-season destinations that would be off-season in the summer. Sometimes when you do off-season travel, you got to be careful because off-season travel can be tricky. Like, you want to make sure you're going off season somewhere where the reason that it's off season has more to do with like local travel patterns and not to do with weather patterns, because off season weather can be really terrible. So for example, I would not go to Southeast Asia in like April, because even though that is technically off season, it will be weather-wise, it will be just straight up a nightmare because it will be that is like the very hottest time. And I was there in January, which January is technically Southeast Asia's winter, but I was still seeing temperatures like in Thailand in the 90s, or like here in Malaysia, I'm in the tropics, so it's still really hot. So even though I'm technically here in winter, I'm here in the middle of the season because that's the way that the travel patterns go. But one year I went to Belize in the summer, and Belize, a lot like Tulum, they're pretty close together. That's going to be a place where we were told, that we were there off season. We were there in August. But even though we were there off season, they said that the weather is the same there most of the year round. So even though we were there off season, it was off season because most people who travel down there travel in the winter to get away from North America cold winter, and they want to get to somewhere warm. It's not off season because the weather is substantially different. The weather is the same. So that would be like a key thing. Like, what is a place that you can go off season if you want to really truly go off season and not just like in the shoulder season, where the weather is still going to cooperate, and the reason the place is off season is is not related to the experience that you will have. Now, the benefit of traveling off season is obviously that you have fewer crowds and maybe you get better deals, but sometimes places aren't super open because it's off season. So sometimes you can get a better deal, but sometimes something just will straight up not be open at all and you won't be able to go do the thing you wanted to do. So it really depends. Do your research about off-season places. Like right now, Gary Arndt, who was on the episode about the UNESCO World Heritage List, I just saw a post that he is in Kotor, Montenegro right now, and there's nobody in the Bay of Kotor. Well, when I was in the Bay of Kotor in the middle of the summer in the high season, it was stuffed with people. It was really hot. I didn't have that great of a time. But he's there right now, and there's no people there. And it's not super cold, it's in the 60s. So, like, that's a great place to go where, January, February is off season, like a lot, like very high off season for a place like that. But weather-wise, it's not a problem. Shoulder season is probably my favorite time to travel places instead of technically off season. Because shoulder season, you're going to get a lot of the benefits of high season and things won't necessarily be closed. But you just got to be careful. With the way that the internet is right now, figure out where you want to go and then do your research. Like what is off season, what's high season, what's shoulder season. If something is in the shoulder season, is it still relatively busy? If something is in the off season, why is it off season? And does that mean things are going to be closed? And is it off season because you will truly be miserable, or is it actually like a really good deal? And then there are some places where it doesn't really matter what time you go. Like New York City, there are going to be people there all the time. Summer is, when it's got more tourists because so many locals go to the shore. But New York City, there's not ever going to be a time where you go to New York City and there aren't people there. So you're making decisions about what type of New York do you want to see. Do you want to see New York in the fall, summer, spring? Do you want Christmas New York? But the off season doesn't really exist there. So there's just lots of things to consider. I'm trying to think of some of the best places that I've been to off season. So really it's that seasonal inversion too. Like my friends and I went to Rio in July. Well, July in Rio is winter, but Rio is unlike some parts of South America. Rio doesn't have like as much seasonality because it's on this like, I don't know what specifically the name of the weather pattern is, but basically winter in Rio is not like winter in other places. Like South America can get really cold, especially the further south you go in winter, but Rio is kind of it kind of has the same all year round. It's got a tropical rainforest in the middle of the city. That's really cool to visit. But so we were there, and in the summer it was a little bit cold. So, like we went to the beach, but we didn't go in the water. It was a little bit cold, but it was still really fun. And that's the kind of thing that you want to look for like an off-season, shoulder season destination. Someplace where you're going to have just as much fun as you would have in like the high season, but you don't have to deal with people and maybe you get some better deals, but the experience isn't ruined. Or like I went to Iceland in October. It's not winter yet, so you're not really doing all the winter stuff, but it's definitely not the summer season. But Iceland closes down. I mean, there are a lot of tours and stuff that you just straight up can't do in Iceland when you get into like the second half of October and into November. So you want to do your research about the location. And then also like look at people's pictures. If you're looking at photographers who don't edit out too much, they might like make a photo look clean, but not truly edit out crowds and stuff. You can kind of tell like what does it look like during different times of year. So that was a question about when should you do, like, what are some good places to go that are off season, especially off season in the summer. And I would say stick to places where the weather is still going to be weather you want to be in, places where the weather either is the same year round, or places where, and it's still going to be open, and places that don't have that much seasonality. So you're really just fighting human traffic patterns and not actually like it's not a totally different place. So let's look at the next question. How do you balance travel and work? Right now, I'm not doing a good job balancing travel and work. Just straight up being honest, I'm traveling really fast and I'm really enjoying it, but I've not gotten a lot of work done this month. This month was mostly about seeing places, and I did, I posted 1 or 2 blog posts in January that weren't podcasts. So I haven't done a great job of balancing. When I get back to Sophia next week, my goal is to sit down for 3 weeks and I have so many projects that I want to do for the website. I got to get caught up, and it is hard. So a lot of travel bloggers and writers who are on the road all the time don't actually travel that fast. So they'll be someplace for a month or 2 months, or they'll make sure that they have days where they just sit and get work done. And that can be boring and look boring, but you have to. Now, I think there's a lot of pressure right now because you can go live so much and you Instagram stories, and there's a lot of pressure on travel bloggers right now to look like they're doing something cool all the time. And that's just not possible. So on this trip, I have actually done something cool almost every single day, unless it was like a transit day. But because I knew, okay, I have exactly 1 month to go to Southeast Asia, and I want to see like X, Y, and Z places, and I didn't want to waste my ticket. I got out here with airline miles. I didn't do a sponsored trip for this, and I knew that I needed to make the most of it. But really, when you're on the road, you just have to stop and work in the middle of it. Or you have to, what I've been doing is like travel for 2 weeks, be home for 2 weeks, travel for a month, be home for a month. And, but I'm getting to the point where I have so much more work to do that system isn't working for me that well. And so I know the next few months I have a lot of travel planned and a lot of travel goals, and there's just a lot of places I want to see. But I'm going to have to do a better job of balancing the work. I have a list of 106 blog posts that I haven't written yet. So since I started traveling full time in the summer of 2016, I have 106 things that I haven't written about yet that are on a spreadsheet that I gotta get to. So places like Chernobyl. I went to Chernobyl in May and I haven't written about it. I have one photo up on Instagram and one photo on my Facebook page, and I haven't written anything about it. And going to see Chernobyl was like a dream come true. Like, it was an insanely cool thing. Now, I did like an Instagram, I did a Snapchat story that day. I haven't really been doing Snapchat lately. But I haven't written it up yet. Yeah, I'm so behind on actually writing stories, and I got to figure out a better way to balance getting the work done. And then also, travel blogging, people sometimes don't really understand, like, what do travel bloggers do? Like, what is your job? What is the work that you do? So there's lots of different kinds of work that travel bloggers do. So there's the actual travel. You can't be an expert on places if you haven't actually been there, and you can tell, well, you can't always tell, but there are some people that write articles about places they've never been, but that usually doesn't work well for people. So, you've got to go to places and then write about them, but just because you write a post doesn't mean anyone's going to see it. So a lot of you guys are probably familiar with the concept of search engine optimization, and that's actually my big project. Is besides writing, getting caught up on some of the stories I have to write, is that I gotta go through and optimize my website. I have like 100 plus articles on there, and 95 of them need to be optimized better for Google. So that will take a long time. If you go through, so I want to go through and take old posts, update them, make sure the information is current, make sure that the information is stuff that you need, add information, make sure that and then go through and do SEO optimization. So there's stuff like that, like a travel blogger, because you're running your own media empire. And that empire can be small or big, but it's really on you to do it. I know people who pay to have people help them with SEO, and I pay someone to help produce my podcast, because that's something that I can't do on my own, which means that I don't have money to spend on SEO right now, so I have to learn it. You have to learn the back end. I didn't set up my website. I outsourced that, but there are things that you can't outsource. You can't afford to outsource everything until you get to a certain point. One day, hopefully, I'll be able to outsource a lot of this, but right now, I need to get better at SEO. Actually, writing takes a while. Editing photos takes a while. Making videos takes a while. Like, all of that stuff that people forget. Like, you do the trip and then you actually have to come home and work for like 10 or 20 hours on the content to get it out there. But that's not actually even close to what all of the work that you do is. So I owe tourism boards articles from places that I went with them. I owe one place a video and an article that I got to do when I get back. So that is work, right? Like, so it's not just that you make the content you want. It's like sometimes you are in an agreement with someone that, and they're either paying you or maybe they're not paying you, but they gave you comps and you got to go make it. But when you owe someone content, not only do you have to give them the content, but you also have to give them the analytics for the content. So if I make a blog post for myself, great. If I make a blog post that's a partnership with another company, I then got to take the time to make sure that they're updated on how well that's doing. Then if I want to do new partnerships, I have to pitch places to find new partnerships. So I have a lot of this trip to Southeast Asia, I did completely independently. I didn't work with a single tourism board, tour operator, hotel. I just did this for me, but I can't afford to do that all the time. So I got to pitch all of the places that I plan on going in the next few months and try to find partners that want to work with me. And that takes time because you got to research who the partner is and then send them an email and send your media kit. And you want to make sure that the pitch is personalized to the business, right? So because I focus on history travel, I don't want to pitch like hotels that were built 5 years ago or restaurants that are brand new, but so I got to research what is a cool historic hotel that I would really like to stay at in this city, but I probably need to find 5 of them. So what are 5 really cool historic hotels in the city, and then go through their social media and make sure they're kind of a good fit for me. I don't want to work with anybody that I wouldn't want to send a reader or a listener to go. If I am going to recommend a place, it's got to be good, right? It's got to be somewhere where I can be proud to recommend people. And so you got to research the places that you pitch to make sure that they're really going to be like that beforehand. And then after you go back, then you owe them content. Maybe they paid you, maybe they didn't, but you owe them content on the place. That's the reason they're having you, not just because you're a cool person. So, so I have 3 weeks to completely redo the SEO for my website, record 8 episodes of my show. I'm not going to write 106 articles. I just told you guys about that so you can kind of see exactly how far behind I am. But I make a goal, maybe try to get 10 of those articles crossed on my list would be great. I have a few videos I want to put out. When you put out a video, you don't just press publish on a video, then you've got to find people to share the video. So I put a video out about Bangkok, and then I had to go and find people on Facebook that would be interested in it and ask them if they would share it, and then they shared it, and that's how it did well. And it's sitting at about 30,000 views, but it didn't just happen. Because I didn't just push publish, that's work. So I gotta do some videos, do some articles, find new partners. I'm trying to increase my page views because I want to get into this one advertising network that pays really well. It pays better than all the other ad networks for websites. And if I can get into that, it would be fantastic. I want to redo my Patreon structure because I don't have I launched it, but I haven't really sat back and figured out okay, what exactly do I want the tiers to be? So I need to go in and do that. I have an audiobook that I started that is never going to get done. So that's all of the content side of it. And that's not even, that's not even the full list of things I really should do. I want to speak at this conference. So I got to put together a pitch to speak for this conference, and I have this special project I want to do at the end of the year. I need to figure out if I really can do that by the end of the year. Just if you're your own business, luckily there's a lot of resources online that are very helpful, but it's a lot of work. It's not, you don't just wake up and have money given to you because you're super cool. You got to do the work. And there are a lot of people that are honestly much better at doing the business side of travel blogging than me. And luckily I'm friends with a lot of them. And so part of February is just doing the things that they told me that I should be doing, actually sitting down and doing them. And I haven't, I've been really busy with travel, but travel doesn't actually pay you the bills, or doesn't pay your bills. It gives you the stories and the authority, but you still have to go turn it into a business. So Angela asked, what surprised you about traveling full time? One good thing and one bad thing. So I'll say that these together. So you learn a lot about people. And a good thing about people is that really people around the world are really lovely and kind and warm. And I'm talking about both like locals where you go and you meet some really cool locals and also other travelers, other travel bloggers. I thought that this life would be more lonely, and it really hasn't been. I am literally talking to people around the globe all day long who have the same job as me and the same career as me. And maybe we're talking about when we're going to hang out. Maybe we're talking about like some jerk advertiser did this thing to us and like, did they do that to you too or whatever? But if you, like, I've been on this trip by myself for a month and I really haven't noticed. And you would think that you would notice. Now, I hung out yesterday with another travel blogger that I've been talking to online for like a year, but we just met up yesterday in Kuala Lumpur. He's super cool, and we'll probably cross paths again this summer because we're both planning on being at the Czech Republic this summer. You know, I was talking to my friend Allison about when we're going to hang out in Spain. We planned a trip to Spain for the end of February. I'm talking to my friend Megan and a group of people about going to Kyrgyzstan in September. Like, I've met so many amazing people around the world. The bad thing is you do learn a lot about all of the ways in which you can be scammed or a target, and even if, and so you end up getting your guard up a lot, and that can be frustrating. So, for example, when I took a taxi from Hanoi to the Hanoi airport into the city, a guy scammed me out of $17. Well, okay, $17 isn't going to bankrupt me, but it was super frustrating. It's super scary. I got stuck on the side of the road for a minute. Like, it was just a really weird situation. And so you have to keep your guard up in like really weird ways. And you also have to forgive yourself that sometimes no matter how much your guard is up, you still might get scammed, and just know that it's not the end of the world. Like, it's not a comment on how good of a traveler you are. Like, there are people, unfortunately, all over the world that scam travelers for a living, and usually those scams are small piecemeal scams, and it's just part of life. I was telling the blogger that I met with yesterday, I was telling him about the like weird scam that I got in Tunisia, where the guy pretended to be the security guard at my hotel to trick me into going to a store to see if I would buy jewelry so he could get a commission. Now, I didn't buy any jewelry, so his scam didn't ultimately work. Like, I didn't spend any money, but he did trick me into thinking he was the security guard at my hotel. And then after I got away, not like ran away, but after I left, I went to my hotel and asked them if they had a security guard named whatever name he told me, and they were like, no. I was like, oh, of course it was like, I just hit my head really hard. Of course it was a scam. So, yeah, you find out that like people all over the world are amazing, and you get really close to people, but you also see like this kind of annoying dark side where you feel like you have to fight a lot just to not be scammed. And that can just wear on you. But it's totally worth getting to travel to deal with it. It just, I didn't realize before I left how short my fuse would get about some of it. Like what day was I? I don't know what. You also learn that the days of the week don't mean anything to you anymore. Like, and other people will be like, it's Monday, and you're like, I don't know what day it is. So Tuesday I was in Malacca, and I was lost in a like on the edge of the nice part of town, but where it was starting to get a little bit industrial, and I didn't really know where I was. And I was putting my camera in my bag, and so my back was turned to this guy who walks up, and this girl, so local girl, looks at me, she goes, is that your boyfriend? And I'm like, what? Like, because no, I'm like traveling by myself, and I had just turned around, and there was nobody standing there when I turned around. So I look back and this guy has like mid-20s, walked up and just sat down on the bench, like behind me, like he's waiting for me. And I'm like, I don't know you. And he's like, no, I met you this morning. And I think he said like our hostel or something, in a way where like, I couldn't tell if he really had a place in mind or if he just knows I'm a traveler, so I'm probably staying at a guest house. And I'm like, no, I don't know you. And then he like reiterated that he did know me. And I had just gotten into town the night before at like 11 p.m. So I was pretty sure that I had not seen this guy. And you know what? If I had seen him, I'm sorry. I have to protect myself. But I'm like, so I was like, I don't know you. And he got up and walked away. And he gets up and he goes over the bridge and down to the other side of the bridge on the other side of the river. And I start to walk up the bridge and I realize that he has just stopped at the bottom of the bridge waiting. And I don't know if he's waiting for me or what he's doing. But I'm in this awkward position of like, do I be rude to this guy? Or do I protect myself because I think it's a scam? And how do you know? Sometimes it's hard to know which is which. So sometimes you're just in situations like that, and they're not ideal, and you're constantly have to make choices between like, how do I protect myself or do I trust someone? And sometimes you trust someone and you shouldn't, and sometimes you don't trust someone and they were fine, but you just have to look out for yourself. Did you set out to do this, or did you kind of find yourself doing it? So I was married, and when I was married, I had like a normal corporate sales job, and it was really fun, and I liked my job a lot. But I just felt like I wasn't traveling nearly as much as I wanted to be traveling, like not even close to as much. My ex-husband and I, we split, and very amicably. We had like the world's nicest, most amicable divorce you could ever have. And I didn't realize, like when we were actually breaking up, what I was going to do, just that, this marriage was not a marriage that either of us should be in. And even though we were very sad it was breaking up, that we were both going to ultimately be happier at the other side of it. And I realized, I think a day or two after we had officially said, you know what, we are going to get divorced, that there was nothing holding me in Philadelphia, and that really I needed to be traveling full time. And that really it was something I'd always wanted to do, but I just never thought that I could do it. And once I was in a situation where I was just designing my life from scratch, it was the only thing that made any sense. I had to stay in Philly for another year and work because I needed to save money to be able to do this, because it's not something you can just, it takes a while to start making money. So it's not something you can just do tomorrow unless you have financial means. So I stayed in Philly for a year and saved money. And then I left. But yeah, it was kind of like an epiphany. As soon as my life was just about me and it wasn't about me and my ex, then it was like, okay, well, I'm going to do what makes me happy, and this is the only thing that would make me happy. So, yeah, good question. All right, so Megan asked, do you get lots of questions where you're in a country where people look different from you? And yes, depends on the country and the culture. So I don't get a lot of questions in Europe. I think that people in Europe mostly know, oh, that girl is an American, or if I'm not talking and they can't hear my voice, they maybe think oh, my family is German and Irish, and I think I have very Germanic features, and so I don't get a lot like that when I'm in Europe. But in Asia, I get a ton of questions about being different. I am 5'9". I am thick, the euphemism thick or curvy or whatever euphemism you want to use. But in America, I'm still a big girl in America because most girls aren't 5'9". But in Asia, I'm practically a giant. In South Africa, I am a giant. In Ecuador, when getting on a plane in Ecuador at 5'9", I was easily the tallest person on a giant commercial plane. It is really common in South America or Asia for me to be the tallest person wherever I go. And then also, I shared, I don't know if you guys watched the video where I shared when I was in Laos, I was in Luang Prabang, and my waiter asked me how much I weighed because he thought it was interesting, or either he was, somebody commented that they thought he was trying to date me, and then or not date me, but trying to hook up with me. And then when I wasn't interested, then he wanted to insult me. I don't know if that's actually what it was, but yeah, that was weird. And then when I was cruising in Halong Bay, there was a very nice woman who I ate lunch with. So they made, I was there by myself, and there were three of us who were solo travelers, and they put us each at different tables. And so I was at this table with this mother and daughter, and then mother, father, and son. And the mother asked me if my boyfriend was big like me. like, actually, no, my boyfriend is like pretty skinny with muscles, but that was I actually told her that too. I was like, no, I'm just gonna say honestly the answer, and then like made fun of me for buying too many snacks because I wanted to buy enough snacks that I could eat dinner in my hotel room and then also eat breakfast because I had like an early morning the next day. But in Asia, it's not common to have like in Asia, or at least in Southeast Asia, it's common to buy what you're going to eat. So like if you're buying something, it's because you're going to eat it right then, and they don't really have a concept like America does of like, like I just want to have snacks in my backpack in case like something happens, or I want to be able to eat from my hotel room and I want to go to a restaurant. So she asked me if my boyfriend was a big guy. I told her no. She asked me why I bought so many snacks. She's like, too many snacks. And I'm like, one, there's no such thing as too many snacks. And two, these snacks are for tonight. They're for tomorrow. They're for the next day. Like, these are my snacks for like, in my head, it's like, of course you want snacks. But like, no, in her head, she thought I meant I was going to eat like a box of cookies, a thing of Pringles, and like 4 Diet Cokes in like 1 hour. But no, I was preparing for the road. So also here, I'm just like so much taller than most of the people that I run into that, it's not so much that most people are rude. Like, most people aren't rude. It's just they treat me the way I might say something to somebody who's like 6'9". Like, if somebody's 6'9", I might make a comment that they're tall, knowing that I really shouldn't. That's what they treat me like. Like, at 5'9", I am a giant woman of I'm like a Nordic goddess giant woman, basically. So that is, interesting. Filming in public, is it embarrassing? So I'm guessing that this has to do with like the fact that I've been doing a lot more live videos in public, and it is embarrassing. And here, I got to take this off the gimbal because my phone's going to die. So give me 1 second. It is embarrassing, but it's easier to do in a country where more people don't speak English. So I think it would be more embarrassing to do it in like the middle of London than to do it in a country like Cambodia or something where the tourists speak English. It's very obvious you're a tourist. It's very obvious that you're not a local. And I usually do it like in historic sites, or like I went live from a restaurant in Bangkok, but like I already knew that literally no person in that restaurant spoke English because I had to order by pointing at a photo. So when I go live, I kind of think like, listen, I really want to share this place with the world. I'm a travel professional. My goal is to make sure that people learn about these amazing places that they should travel to. I'm going to tourist destinations that literally want people to go to them. I don't do lives from like people's basements. I don't do lives from like secret places. I'm doing lives from places that are literally in the Lonely Planet Guide or places like that. So it's not super embarrassing. The most embarrassing thing is, I guess the most embarrassing thing about going live is just that you have to talk out loud to the camera and pretend like people aren't around you. And I guess I'm kind of a narcissist, so it's not that big of a deal to me to like tune people out. I think most bloggers are a little bit of narcissists, but it is what it is. All right, so Felix asked, first, the best greetings from Germany, right on, right out of Bavaria. Ever visited Aachen? I have not visited Aachen, and I really do want to go. So I've only been to Berlin. I've been to like the Frankfurt airport, but I spent a weekend with one of my best friends from college, lives in Berlin, and I hung out with her, and we went to Potsdam. But I went to like Museum Island, but I really have not spent enough time in Germany. So I've been talking to one of the tourism boards about doing some work for Germany in the spring, but you never know until it actually happens if something like that's going to happen, but I hope it does. So Sonia asked, how do you choose the places to go? So I want to go everywhere. Really easy ones. If a friend wants to go somewhere, that's easy because there might be a good reason. If there's a conference somewhere, that's a good reason. So if there's like an event happening that is only going to happen at one point in time, then we'll go there. So, like, I'm going to Spain. I thought I was going to go to Belarus. And then my friend is like, oh, I'm going to be in Barcelona. And I'm like, well, I'll just meet you in Barcelona because I want to go to Spain too. And if it's between me going to Belarus by myself or me going to Barcelona to hang out with a friend, it does not really make a difference. They're both super cool places. I want to see both of them. So I'll just go to Barcelona now and I'll go to Belarus later and it's all fine. So then I know that I'm going to see her in Barcelona, and we both want to see every country on the planet. So we're like, okay, well then if we're going to Barcelona, we got to take a day trip to Andorra because Andorra is a really cool but very small country. But it's right by Barcelona. So it's like, okay, well, if you're going to be there, you might as well pop up to this place. And then we're like, okay, well, we have a few more days in Spain. Where are we going to go? And Spain is huge, and it's super intimidating because you know you're not going to go to Spain once and see 5% of it. So she spent like 2 hours on Skyscanner figuring out what the cheapest, best city for us to go was because we needed a combination of like a place she could fly back to Bulgaria from cheaply, but we could also get there cheaply from Barcelona. So we decided to go to Valencia. I didn't know 24 hours ago that I was going to be in Valencia this month, but now I'm going to be there. So she buys a plane ticket from Valencia to Barcelona. So it's set. We're going to Valencia. And then we're on our I was on Facebook and noticed that my friend Teresa, who runs the website Brogan Abroad, posted photos from Valencia, which is like, I literally don't know anything about the city. I know nothing about it, but I'm like, Allison wants to go. So cool. Teresa's been there. She says it's cool. So then she sends me all of her recommendations, and now I'm like obsessed because the city is like a magically wonderful historic city, and I can't wait to see it. So I kind of think serendipity is the best thing about trip planning. Because if you literally wanted to see, I want to see every country on earth, so it doesn't really matter to me what order I see them in. But let's say that you don't, and you only want to travel like 1 or 2 weeks a year. Well, don't go to the same place every year for your entire life. But don't stress it either. Like, you know, if a friend wants to go somewhere, go with them. Like, if there's a good deal one year, go there. Like, mix it up, but don't stress it because the best parts of travel are usually the trips you have no idea that you're going to be on. And you, like, you know, and you just get there and it's wonderful. Like, I always find, like, a trip that I don't have any expectations for is way more fun than the trip that I, like, plan. Because if I have no expectations whatsoever, then when I get there, it can totally surprise me. It's part of why I thought, but like, I ended up loving Bulgaria because I went to Greece right before I went to Bulgaria, and Greece is awesome, but Greece is supposed to be awesome. But nobody knows that Bulgaria is cool too. So like when I got there and realized it was amazing, it was a complete surprise, and it just got to be like my secret place instead of you know, everybody goes to Greece, and everyone should go to Greece, but if you only had one trip, like I think for an American, if you only had one international trip that you know you're ever going to take, I would say go to Italy or Greece. But if you have 2 or 3, go to one normal country and then go to one super weird country that you didn't even know you wanted to go to, because I bet you have more time, like a better time in that second one. All right, so how do you deal with language barriers? I don't. I'm a terrible. I speak no foreign languages. I've studied Russian, German, Spanish. So I studied Spanish for 8 years, German for 4 years. I took 4 semesters of college level Russian. I speak no foreign languages. And because I literally want to travel everywhere, there's no language that would help me everywhere except for English. English is the universal language. And I am so lucky to have been born an American with an American passport and native English. Like, I don't deserve it. I didn't earn it. It's just, it's fate. Like, not fate in like a meant to be sort of way, just fate in like a happy accident of history kind of way that I happen to be born with one of the best passports in the world with the best language to know. Like, people, like, I have a German friend, Anne-Marie, who, her website is called Travel on the Brain, and it's really good. But we were talking, her passport technically can get into more countries than mine, because the German passport technically has more power than the American passport when it comes to, like, not paying for visas. But she still had to learn English. Like, there aren't very many places where she can go and speak German and everyone will understand her. Like, the international language of travel is English. So language barriers can be frustrating, but usually you have Google Translate. So if you make sure you have a data plan when you get somewhere, you just use Google Translate. You have gestures and body signals and pointing. You can always phone a friend. Like if I'm on the road with a taxi driver or a driver and someone else, like a hotel has set us up for them to be my driver, like maybe that guy doesn't speak English, but somebody at the hotel always speaks English. So they can call the hotel and then hand you the phone, and you can tell the lady at the reception desk, like, hey, this is what okay, so this happened to be in Moldova. My Moldova driver spoke no English, but he would call the reception lady and she would talk to me in English and then translate it to him in Moldovan. I don't know if Moldovan is a language or if he was speaking Romanian. I think he was speaking Romanian. Yeah, like it's just, don't be afraid to look like an idiot. Don't be afraid to point. For the most part, if you are stepping into somewhere where they don't speak English and you're talking to someone that doesn't speak English, unless it's in France, the rest of the world, they probably don't mind that you speak English. They probably want to speak English. If they speak even a little bit of it, they want to practice it with you. And making a fool of yourself is good. Like, it's showing them that you're like a normal person and you're a nice person and you're not a jerk. Like, that's all good. Like, so many people apologize to me that their English isn't good when their English is like their third or fourth language and we're having like a full-on conversation in English. And it's like, I speak nothing. Like, I have heard nothing. The fact that I speak English is because I got so lucky. Like, and these people that work so hard are apologizing to you. It's ridiculous. The best thing you can do is make a fool of yourself and show that, like, you appreciate them and go out of your way to make them feel comfortable and just like show that, like, don't be haughty about other people not speaking English when you're not in an English speaking country. Like, that would be an insane reaction to that situation. You just make a fool of yourself and you just try. All right. How do you make money? There's lots of ways that travel bloggers make money. You can get paid from ads on your website. I don't currently do that right now. I'm trying to get my traffic to the point where I can. So there are different ad networks that you can make money from. Google AdSense is open to everyone, but I don't want to go through installing that for $50 a month. So I'm trying to wait till I get to this other level. And some websites make really good money off of that. I'm not at that level yet. Hopefully one day. I make a little bit of money off my Patreon account where people can subscribe to support the show and help cover the cost of having it produced. I make a little bit of money from tourism boards. I make a little bit of money from, I don't really do this, but some travel bloggers like sell links or sell guest posts, partnerships with people, brand ambassadorships. So there's lots of different ways to do it. I used to have another job. I only stopped working another job. Like, I had a part-time job from the road. I only stopped that in the fall. And I stopped it partially because I knew if I didn't ever stop it, I wasn't ever going to ramp my personal business up to the point where I could replace it. So I'm kind of in this weird situation where I'm still living off of the savings from that job and trying to ramp up my business. And that's the goal this year, is to ramp up and do some more things. So this is a good question because part of February, my goal in February is to start making some income on some new ways that I haven't been before that I know are successful. When you work with a tourism board, you can tell them what your day rate is. Like, some bloggers make a lot of money to go somewhere for the day. I haven't ever asked for that much money, but you just kind of got to get comfortable asking for money and valuing your work. And then I have ads on my podcast that doesn't pay that much, but pays a little bit. Hopefully, as the podcast grows, that will grow too. So right now I make a tiny bit of money in a lot of different ways, and I need to make slightly more in each of those ways, and that will add up to a full-time income. But some people freelance write. I've done a couple freelance writing articles for money, but it's not exactly what I want to be doing because it's kind of a grind. But yeah, so people either make money off their website, or they make money by selling stuff, or they make money from tourism boards. There's just a lot of different ways to do it, and you've got to just piece together all these different pieces. Affiliate sales. So like if you go to my website and you buy a book off of a list I recommended or something, I get a small chunk of that. It's just like a lot. But for me right now, it's like, okay, I got to step back and see which of these is working and which isn't working and make the ones that are working work better. because I don't want to get to the point where I have to do shady things. Like, there are some bloggers that do shady things, and I just don't, I'm not going to call them out, but I don't want to be one of those people. So I have to do more. And then also like consulting. So I was a social media consultant. I've had some clients that weren't the company that I used to work for. I don't hate it. I don't love it. Really, what I want to be doing is my show. So I want to get the listeners up to the point where I can ask for real ad revenue from that. And then I don't have to worry about some of these other stuff as much. But yeah, it's a grind. But I see a lot of friends who started out a little bit before me or worked harder on their businesses a little bit earlier than I did, turning the corner, and it's not a grind anymore. And so I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I just have to take some time this year to seriously focus on it. And that is difficult when you're on the road so much. So it's just kind of, I gotta find a slightly better balance than I'm doing right now. Why I do not travel with a man, why I'm a solo female traveler. Well, so I do have a boyfriend. He lives in Bulgaria. I was traveling full time before I met him. Like I mentioned earlier, I am divorced. So part of, not the only reason we got divorced, but one of the reasons we got divorced is just that I wanted to travel so much more, and he wanted to put more of our energy and extra income into building like a local relationships in the neighborhood and stuff like that. And so I already had gotten used to traveling alone more, and I really like traveling alone. If I was with someone who wanted to be on the road all of the time too, cool, that's fine. But I appreciate that not that he lets me, he doesn't let me do anything. I appreciate that when I'm on the road, it works. And when I am back in Bulgaria, it works. And so far, it's only been a little over a year, but so far it's worked out pretty well. And I can't really see myself slowing down the travel altogether. Like I said, as far as like the business goes, I would really like to be traveling 4 months a year, home 8 months a year, but like that 4 months spread out over the year. But right now it's 6 and 6 because I am on a Bulgarian tourist visa, so I can't be in the country for 8 months. So right now I feel a little out of balance on everything, but eventually, hopefully it will get settled down a little bit. All right. So let me see. What was my favorite country that I visited in Southeast Asia? So I saw Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Singapore, and Malaysia, which is a lot to do in a month. But I came here on miles, and I wanted to really see as much as I could. I loved Thailand. Thailand is delicious. I only really saw Bangkok and then the 2 ancient capitals, so I feel like I got to go back to Thailand to do the islands. I didn't do like Phuket or any of the islands, and I didn't go north. I didn't go to Chiang Mai. So I feel like I really liked what I saw of Bangkok, but I didn't get to see the whole country. I think of all the places I saw, if I had to pick one place to live, Hanoi is probably the city that I could live in the most. It's a cool, weird, old city. It's a 1,000-year-old city. It's really beautiful, but it's not. It seems like Hanoi is more there for people from Hanoi, whereas like Bangkok seems more like an international city that's more like tourist focused. Luang Prabang, I'm not pronouncing it correctly. Luang Prabang is a very expensive city. Compared, like, not if you're flying in from London, but comparatively, I liked it. It is way more tourist focused than any other place that I was, except for Siem Reap, and I don't think I could live there. But it's really cool. I think everyone should go there. But like after 3 days, I was like, okay, I get it. Whereas like Phnom Penh, after 3 days, I knew I wasn't even close to understanding the city. I think that Cambodia was my favorite country to visit of what I saw so far. I learned the most about Cambodian history, between its ancient history and then the Khmer Rouge modern history. There's just so many things I didn't know. I could go back to Cambodia for like 6 months and still feel like I hadn't gotten everything. Whereas like, I don't know if I could spend like 2 more weeks in Laos before I kind of was like, okay, I'm done. Even though Laos was really beautiful, it's just, Cambodia felt more like a mystery that I needed to solve than any of the other places. Now, so Singapore is the most expensive city to live in the world. And I definitely could not afford to live in Singapore. I would go broke. But most people in the world couldn't afford to live in Singapore. It's like Yeah, it's more expensive than Hong Kong, more expensive than New York, more expensive than London, more expensive than Paris. It's crazy. It was really cool, but there's so many rules there. I'm really glad I saw it, but I think if on my next trip, I want to see more of Thailand, the south part of Vietnam. I want to chill out in Hanoi. I want to dig deeper into Cambodia. Like, there's so many places in those countries that I didn't see. I don't know if I would go back to Singapore. Malaysia's been weird since I am at the end of a month of travel, of really fast travel. I don't think I've given this country a very good shot. So Malacca was really pretty. It's UNESCO World Heritage City. But I only spent 2 days there, and my goal was just to see the old part. I didn't really learn that much about the current city. And then I came up to Sepang, and I've been in a resort. I literally am in an overwater bungalow resort. And so I haven't, I'm not out. And yesterday I did 1 day in Kuala Lumpur, but I didn't really see that much of it. So I would say I need to come back the most to learn more about Malaysia, because this is the country I'll leave with probably knowing the least about. But the places I'd want to go back to the most would be Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam. All right, so it looks like we are out of questions for today. Thank you so much to everyone who asked a question. Thank you guys so much for watching. And we'll do this again. Thanks, guys. Thank you guys so much. If you enjoyed this episode, let me know. If you guys really liked it, we can do it again in 6 months or a year. If you hated this episode, it's cool. Let me know. We don't have to do it again. I can make sure I have more backup episodes in the can in case I have a Wi-Fi issue in the future. But thank you guys so much. I've started getting notes from people. I would say probably 2 weeks ago, there were 3 days in a row where I got 3 notes from listeners that were just so kind. I even met Emily is a listener, and she lives in Hanoi, and we went and got coffee when I was in Hanoi, and I've just met some of the coolest people because of this podcast, and also gotten some of the nicest comments. And it's still, every time I find out that somebody listens to the show, it just totally makes my day. So thank you guys so much for being such a great audience. I really appreciate it. If you have questions that I didn't answer today, but you want to ask me a question, hit me up anytime. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm History Fangirl on both. You can email me, Stephanie@historyfangirl.com. I love getting emails. Yeah, basically, if you want to talk to me, because I really love hearing from you all. It just totally makes my day. Housekeeping, we'll keep it short. When this episode posts on Monday, I will be back in Sofia recording a lot of episodes for the next few weeks. And so Facebook Live stuff is going to go from being, right now I was doing a lot of stuff for my trip. I'll probably still do some Facebook Lives, but there might be other topics. But if you want to see Facebook Live, or you want to see more pictures from my trips, I'm going to be posting pictures from this trip on Facebook and on Instagram. And then, of course, on the blog, you can go to History Fangirl on Facebook or Instagram, or historyfangirl.com if you want to see more. I just posted yesterday on the blog, I posted a recap of my month of January with some pictures and with some highlights of things that happened that were awesome and things that happened that were not awesome. I want to make sure that I'm sharing stuff with you guys, and if there's anything else you want to see, let me know. And then if you haven't reviewed the show yet, it would be great if you could open up the podcast app of your choice right now and leave a nice, or not nice, but it should be nice. If you're going to take the time to do it, review, that would be awesome. So thank you guys so much for listening.